Yes, Mr. Sim.
Thanks, Chair. Sorry, General, just one last question on this, on your response that you orientating yourself when you took the position. You said earlier that the work study, the Murray report, in other words, you were aware of that already by 2024, before you signed it in September 2024. Isn't that so? Because it was in existence for some time.
No, I wasn't aware of it because part of my complaint is the fact that documents sit for too long in offices. So if you see the date on which I signed, it's much deeper in the year. So I was not aware of that Murray report at that point in time.
So when did you become aware of the Murray report for the first time?
I think I needed a week to read it, go through it, and then sign it. So it will be around about a week.
Around about a week. You weren't aware of the work study that it started in 2019. You weren't aware of the concerns and the proposals that were raised until September, you say, 2024.
Yes, remember I was not in the employ of the subs at that time.
Okay. Chair, I'm going to move to a new topic. So if there are any other questions on the issue of the disbandment and the decision, now is the time. No. Thank you.
Please proceed.
Okay. So, General, I'd like to move now to post 31 December to the issue of implementation. You said you became aware of the decision when it was circulating on social media.
That's correct.
And but when did you get official notification?
On the 3rd of January from the Office of the National Commissioner.
And I just want to take you to your letter of 17 January. And that is SS 13, page 205.
These are your files. Where's my files? This one. SS 13.
Page 205. Let me know when you have it.
I have SS 13 here. This is SS 13 of my statement. I don't see page 205. I'm at SS 13, so I'm looking at the other file. Oh, okay. Yes, I can see it. Is it. Then I'm far from the mic, so I'll have to.
Well, you can use your version, and what you can do is just refer to paragraph numbers.
Can I just be assisted so that I focus on the mic? Otherwise, I'm going to face the. I've got it, Chair.
Thank you.
So if you wish to reference any part of this letter, General, you can refer to the paragraph numbers or the page numbers at the bottom. The small numbers in the bottom middle of the page. Okay, so this letter you prepared, is that right, on the 7th? Well, this is the letter that you say you prepared with the assistance of General Rabi.
Correct.
And but you also said that you read the letter and you agreed with all the contents of the letter.
That's correct.
And in paragraph 2 of this letter, in the second sentence, you said this decision, meaning 31 December 2024, was informed by an assessment that the task team no longer significantly contributed to policing efforts. What assessment were you referring to here? Because as we know, you've said there was no review or analysis of the task team. So what assessment are you referring to here?
This letter, I think, must be read in conjunction with the minister's comment on that meeting of the 31st, on the 1st of November, considering the fact that this letter that we are talking about come from the Office of the National Commissioner, as directed by the National Commissioner to assist me to craft this thing. So this letter. So even though I signed this letter, I think there is a general agreement and understanding that this letter was signed by the Office of the, comes from the Office of the National Commissioner. So commissioners to be really bound on to certain words and say, what were you meaning? What were you referring to on this document that was prepared by the Office of the National Commissioner? And then saying that I can sign it because it's directed to DIVCOM intelligence. I will respond and I will attempt to respond. But to be fair, this letter, from the very onset, it is known that I am not the author of this letter.
So, again, we have a signature by you on a document that's a lengthy document, but you disavow the authorship of this, the ownership of this letter.
It's
You can
not
comment on that.
It's not a difficult question that you are asking. I'm just worried that we all agree that it comes from the Office of the National Commissioner,
Well,
and that it can be signed by me. And when I read it and I went through the contents, to me, it was a plan on how to go about in disbanding. I signed it.
I'm not that doesn't sound it doesn't sound like a full and candid response, General, because what you've said, first of all, let me just say, this letter is not a letter that's prepared like an information note is prepared, and you see who the author is of the note, and then you have a signature that recommends, you endorse it, in other words, a letter that's, a document that's prepared by someone else. It usually then says it's prepared by somebody else. That's the first thing. Right? You agreed. This is not that kind of letter. It's not an information note kind of letter where it says it's been prepared by someone else. Right?
It is that kind of a letter that it is prepared by someone because it was sent to my office from the Office of the National Commissioner.
Well, no. It was a draft that you had prepared together with General Rabi. General Rabi was assisting you. That was what you testified to yesterday, and that's what's in your statement, that General Rabi was tasked to assist you to prepare this. And you explained why it would be involve General Rabi because of the nature of the letter, etc. And that's completely acceptable. There's no problem with that. But you have to satisfy yourself that you are happy with the instructions that you are giving, because this instruction doesn't come from General Rabi or from the Office of the National Commissioner. It comes from you. It's not on the National Commissioner's letterhead, it's not on, it doesn't have his signature, only yours.
It goes out, simply put, it goes out as your letter, General.
It's true, Chair.
Signature at the end is yours. You are not recommending to anybody. You are signing a letter that's yours. And even at the top under inquiries is Lieutenant General Sibiya. It's your letter.
That's correct, Chair.
Yeah. Yes, Ms. Hassan.
Thank you. So can I go back to now the contents of this letter and ask you questions about it, because it's your letter?
Yes.
Okay. So the first question I had was, what was the assessment in paragraph 2? What was the assessment that was done that concluded that the task team no longer significantly contributed to policing efforts?
That is a question that is based on the. Can we go to the letter that itself that was written by the minister, because I think the words originates from that letter itself.
Okay. So you're saying that this is a reference to the minister's assessment?
I think so. So we need to get to that letter. SS.
Page 198, same file. General, did you find it?
I found it.
That's on 197.
Yes, I found it, Chair. Commissioners. I need to get the one that is written in, because this one is very small font, very small. Either I can see it here or a document, the real document, because this one is, you can't read.
Do you have a version of it?
Yeah. Blow it up a little bit more, please.
Is that
General,
legible?
do you want to look there?
Yes, I can. Yes.
You may then indicate whether to scroll up or down. Yeah.
Can I, let's go to the first sentence. Just this question. Well, justice in the first few months towards the end of the year, I have made observations on a number of important aspects on the subs and policing. For purpose of this letter, I'm focusing on the 3 aspects that require very urgent attention to address some of the challenges at hand. Now, as far as I'm concerned, Chair and Commissioners, to say I trust this correspondence find you well in this festive season. In the past few months, towards the end of this year, 2024, I have made observations on a number of important aspects on the subs and policing. For the purpose of this letter, I'm focusing on 3 aspects that require very urgent attention. Now, we can go to the one of the political killing, number 3. All right. Management Executive Committee meeting later in January 2025. Key reference points to include, but not limited to, the following: a comprehensive analysis of the current challenges of scrutiny. No, this is the port of entry.
Yeah.
It's point 3.
Point 3.
Can you?
I want the one that speaks to political game.
Point 3.
Yes. In 2019, a directive was made to the National Commissioner of Police following the Moerano Commission report, even though not flowing directly from such, that an interministerial task force be established. The key mandate was, I don't know whether it's stop, what?
Can I suggest that you go to the next page? It's clearer on the next page. That one, yes.
In 2019, a directive was made to the National Commission of Police following the Moerano Commission report, even though not flowing directly from such that an interministerial task force be established. The key mandate was to stop, investigate, resolve unresolved matters of politicians in the country, especially in KwaZulu-Natal. My observation in this regard, as indicated above, is that further existence of this team is no longer required, nor is it adding any value to policing in South Africa. I therefore direct that the political killing task team be disestablished immediately. Further, that a preliminary report in this regard be submitted to the minister by the 20th of January 2025. The final and closing report must be submitted to the Ministry Management Executive Committee meeting late January 2025, the date of which will be communicated as soon as possible. So this paragraph, to me, responds directly to the question asked by the evidence leader, I think.
Okay, you say that the assessment that the task team no longer, what you mean is the observation by the minister.
This is the minister saying, this is the observation that the minister made.
Okay. No, that's fine. That's clear. What he had said in his letter was it was an observation. In this letter, you detail steps that need to be taken in order to...
Just to go back to the letter,
SS13, it starts in 205.
It's a statement, all right. You need a big one.
Do you have it, General?
Yeah, I'm back to the same problem, but it's okay. I'll try to hold on.
Well, what's the problem? Perhaps we can assist.
No, because the document that is in front of me.
No, you're looking at the wrong page. It's page 205.
Whoa, I'm okay. Thank you very much.
This is the letter that we began with.
Yes.
Right. We've now dealt with your answer to the question that I asked pertaining to paragraph 2. Okay. And this letter is a detailed set of instructions for compliance with the minister's directive. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And I just want to ask you some questions based on this. In paragraph 3.4, on page 206, you say all case dockets must be hand-delivered to a location designated by the Divisional Commissioner for Detective and Forensic Services, who must establish a secure repository for case files and evidence to ensure continuity and prevent any loss or tampering. These dockets will then be reallocated to appropriate investigative units with the capacity to continue the investigations. So this was a requirement that the dockets be delivered to the Divisional Commissioner, Detective and Forensic Services. Is that what one should understand by it? Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. And where would that be? In head office?
No.
Where is it the Divisional Commissioner for Detective and Forensic Services?
I think I said at the place determined by the Divisional Commissioner.
So it could be any place in the country.
It could be any place between in KZ and where the dockets are.
So it would be removed and be taken to a location where there would be a secure repository.
Yes.
Okay. And you say you didn't mean that it should go to the DivCom, Detective and Forensic Services at head office.
No, I said it must go to her.
Yes, but not physically delivered
I never
to head
dictated
office.
a place where.
Okay. And then you asked for, if we can
But
turn,
it could have been head office as well.
It could have been head office as well.
Thank you. Thank you.
and then in paragraph 4, you ask for a comprehensive closing report to be submitted by 16 January, confirming compliance with the aforementioned directives. Now, I think this has come up before. This letter is dated 17 January, but you ask for the report to be delivered the day before. Do you want to comment on that?
I think at the much earlier station, I did indicate that at some point, because it looked like I gave them a day or two, because it was signed on the 17th. And then here the date was the 16th. In other words, it came, I don't know what caused the confusion in between when I received this and when I signed this, but I accept the typo or the error that exists here because I said on the 16th, but I signed on the 17th. So quite honestly speaking, I'm lifting my hands high up in the air on this one.
Okay. Then you ask, then you detail what the report should look like, how the report should be structured. And in 4.1, you say it should, let's just start from before. The report should be structured according to the following guidelines. 4.1, executive summary. In the second bullet, you say summary of key considerations that resulted in the decision to disband the task team. Now, this letter is addressed to the head of the task team, who did not support the disbandment of the task team. How would he have been able to prepare a report? And I've got a few questions on this, but my first is, how would you expect him to prepare a report that explains the considerations that underlined the decision, that were informed the decision of the minister? How would he know?
Earlier, I indicated that he never really indicated that he does not support at all. Even the National Commissioner never indicated that he's not in support. So he never indicated that he does not support.
You're saying General Khumalo never indicated that he did not support the disbandment of the task team that he was the leader of?
Yes, he never.
Sorry, General Sibiya, when you drafted this letter, you could not have known that because you had not engaged with General Khumalo at this point. So when you drafted this letter, how did you expect him to comply with the second bullet in 4.1? Accepting that in March, when you did engage with him, he didn't express a disagreement. You signing this letter on the 17th of January, and you have not spoken to him at all about the PKTD.
That is correct.
So how did you expect him to comply with bullet 2 when you signed this letter? That's really the question.
Chair, because when I write this letter, I write it as positive as possible, knowing that this is an official document with the minister and the National Commissioner's blessing. So I write it to him. And then if he himself was not in agreement, he would have responded to this letter, also in writing, and say, I see you wrote this letter to me, but I'm not in agreement. But instead, we don't have that. So he never indicated that he's not in agreement.
had you had a discussion with General Khumalo about the decision between 31 December and sending this? Did you have a discussion with him informally or formally, or pick up the phone, anything to say this is a decision that needs to be implemented?
I did respond earlier that I never had a discussion with him, and considering the fact that it was also around about the festive period when everyone was still at home and some had not come back yet at work, and some of us were all over the country because it's still within the festive period.
Okay, so you don't really know what his state of mind was regarding the decision?
I didn't know.
Okay. Now, how would he, even if he, let's assume that he had no problem, he didn't make the decision to disband the team. So how would he come up with the reasons? Why was it expected of him that he must provide the reasons for the decision?
Normally in the South African Police Service, when you get an instruction to write a document or to come up with an information note or what on behalf of the National Commissioner or the Minister, you will pen down a document that is just going for the signature for the National Commissioner or the Minister. You will then take this document, go sit with the National Commissioner and discuss with him. So now, in this case, since this is what was discussed and clear guidance given and him submitting the reasons, it is what is contained in the reason, in the document, guided by the fact that the author of this document, I do own the document, Chair, because I signed it, but as assisted by a person who is dealing with reports in the South African Police, who is at strategic management and who has done organization and work study, and say this is the format that you need for you to have a complete document that actually represent or present a close-up report. It needs to have the following topics. Now, those topics that are written here, we are all guided by an expert in this document, myself and General Khumalo.
Wouldn't this be in a report that is written before the decision is taken?
No. No, because it's not a question of we were all expecting that there will be a document coming that says we are closing down. So nobody would have known that now I need to start writing, preparing the reasons for close up, because we didn't expect this to happen.
But in the normal course, before a decision is taken, wouldn't the decision be underpinned by reasons, and those reasons would be located somewhere before the decision is taken?
It's true. But when I look at the letter of the minister, the few lines that is written in the document itself, the few lines that are written in the document itself, from the minister's point of view, whether as a minister of police, who determines policy for the police, he gives reasons from his own understanding and where he comes from. And now, which means the National Commissioner, before we get to this point, was in fact the one who was supposed to immediately, when he received this letter, take the same letter, go back to the minister and say, Minister, I want to understand where you're coming from. I don't agree with 1, 2, 3, 4. Can we hold on until I come back? Or make me understand. But the National Commissioner instead forwarded it and say, prepare a close-up report. Is already on board by so saying, and say, prepare a close-up report. So this is a late question to as far as I'm concerned.
General, this is a letter that you signed and that you send to General Khumalo and you ask him to give you the reasons for the disbandment of the task team. Does that sound like a reasonable request?
We're not asking him to give us the reason why the task team should be closed. We're saying prepare a close-up report. In your close-up report, it must include the following topics. Where General Khumalo needed to ask a question, it was then for General Khumalo to make necessary inquiries with the office of the ministry or myself and say, General, you just sent me this document. And then how do you expect me to write this when I don't know? Then in my case, I would also have to go back to the minister and say, Minister, General Khumalo wants to know the following so that we can then provide the reasons. But at this present moment, I'm dealing with a letter that comes from the Office of the National Commissioner, brought to me by a strategic management executive manager, which is a general from the National Commissioner's office, and say, the NASCOM says, no, you can sign this thing.
I guess, General, the substance of the question is, as you are writing this letter, I won't bother about referring to General Rabi, is it? Yeah. As you are writing this letter, because it's your letter, what key considerations or reasons did you, as the writer, expect of General Khumalo? It's a simple question.
To me, Chair, I was following the guidelines, the guidance by General Rabi from the Strategic Management Office. And this letter is a letter that I know that even the National Commissioner saw. So as far as I'm concerned, I signed it because it had the blessing of the National Commissioner.
But it goes out under your hand. And in response to a question of mine earlier, you said you accept it's your letter. So bullet 2 of 4.1 is basically written by you, and you are asking for key considerations, which I read to be reasons. So what reasons did you expect of General Khumalo? Because bearing in mind that he did not disband the PKTT.
This letter, Commissioners, as General Ravi wrote this letter, he gave guidance. It's a guideline that says, give us a comprehensive close-up report must be submitted by 16 January, confirming compliance with the aforementioned directives. The report should be structured according to the following guidelines. Now, it gives different topics. It's guidelines. Now, which means you're not necessarily expected to even provide the reasons for disbandment if you don't have them, or if it's something that you cannot write, or you could either write back and say, may I be clarified on the following key issue, so that we are able to then guide you further.
Thank you, General. Ms. Asim?
Thank you. So it was free to General Khumalo to not do that if it wasn't something that he was within his knowledge, which, of course, it's not in his knowledge, right?
I suggest so.
And
Ms. Hasim, it's 4:15. Let us adjourn at this stage.
I have no objection if you continue or adjourn. We're
Now
available.
you want me to look lazy, Ms. King.
I want to stay neutral.
General, should we continue?
Let's pull through. Let's continue.
Okay, let's adjourn at 5 p.m. then. Let's continue.
all right, Chair. So let's continue through the letter. You then request I'm gonna move over to the next page, 4.5. Input from key stakeholders in response to the announced disbandment of the task team. For example, comments by NPA and SSA. Now, would there not have been consultation with these key stakeholders prior to the disbandment of the decision to disband?
This letter serves as a guideline and all the necessary important exercises that needs to be done or what needed to be considered or done. Now, in this case, the consultation with key stakeholders was one of the key issues to attend to. And as General Khumalo later indicated in his correspondence that they also made use of this same document. They took certain key topics out of that and then also allocated action plan, and then they allocated such an action plan to the National Commissioner in terms of consultation with stakeholders. But they were all guided from this document.
That doesn't answer my question. My question is, would there not have been consultation with the key stakeholders? And so the input from the stakeholders would be sought prior to the announcement of the disbandment, right?
The answer is really the same answer because no one expected disbandment, no one expected this letter. There wouldn't have been any prior consultations with nobody because the answer will remain the same. For as long as we're still sticking to wasn't there supposed to be a consultation, the answer is the same.
General, maybe Ms. Hassim as well. If you look at 3.7, paragraph 3.7 at page 207, it says, so this is, as I read this letter, the whole of paragraph 3, it's steps that must be taken, the whole of paragraph 3. And then 3.7 says stakeholder communication. All internal and external stakeholders must be notified in writing about the disbandment, the transition plan for ongoing cases, and the future protocol. That's in 3.7. And then the paragraph that Ms. Hassim is now discussing, 4.5, stakeholder feedback. It is feedback on the task in 3.7. It doesn't answer the question, Ms. Hassim's question, that should there not have been stakeholder engagement before. But I think 4.5 makes sense when you look at 3.7. Because after disbandment, the plan says, now tell all your stakeholders what your transition plan is and future protocols. And then 4.5 requires your report to state what their feedback is.
Thanks, Commissioner Beloy. The question remains the same because it would mean that there would only be communication to stakeholders after the decision is made. So my question is, and this is an important question because the PKTT was made up of multiple stakeholders itself, including...
Before the question, and please hold your thought on it, I just want to make an observation, General, on what the last thing you said just now. You said you did not expect, and you are not referring only to yourself, but I think you are referring to everybody. Said you did not expect this letter, and you said it twice now.
Yes.
And you have said it twice already before. I think the first time you mentioned it, you said we all did not expect the disbandment. And then you said it again later. You've said it 4 times.
That's correct.
I find it rather odd that you say you were not surprised and that General Masemula should not have been surprised when all of you say 4 times, did not expect this. I'm just making that observation and to have it on record. You may continue with it. But if you want to comment, General, you may.
I really wish I want to comment, Chair, and it is with respect as well, I'm not challenging the Chair. When I say General Masemola cannot say he was also shocked or surprised, I'm just banking on the fact that it was not the first time we all saw a letter was just drafted, having not had any discussion prior at all.
But you don't expect it, and I would think you must be surprised when you see it, when you did not expect it. That's the point I'm making.
If the chair calls me one day into a meeting and say, General, I'm concerned about 1, 2, 3, 4 that is happening, and I think we really need to relook into this situation and that, and then go think about it. But we need to reconsider this or to review this. Look into that one. Then I indicate and said, no, but I don't think it will make any problem. There's any problem in this regard.
You see, there wasn't. Okay, continue.
Then I say, I don't see any problem. I think it can be done. Then it all goes quiet. It's festive season now. We're all over the country doing festive season. Later in the year, in the end of the year, the 31st, I see a letter coming through. It will come as a shock, but not surprised, because I know about it. It was once raised. And then my job will be to then call the chair and say, Chair, I see this letter, and I'm surprised or I'm shocked that
You see, you can't avoid saying you are shocked, you are surprised. You can't avoid saying that.
I'm saying
because that's actually what should ordinarily happen in those circumstances. You yourself cannot avoid being shocked or surprised, General.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
No, my advocate warned me and say, don't go for the second time with the chair. Just remain. Once you see he raises something, don't repeat it. So I'm taking a short left now.
Thank you, General. Yes, Ms. Hasim.
Thank you, Chair. So, that's not unrelated to this letter that we're looking at. And maybe I should cut through, actually. This is your letter. It requires communication with the stakeholders. It requires the summary of the reasons for the decision to disband. It requires an analysis of the task team's effectiveness and impact on crime reduction, an account of controversies, a cost-benefit analysis, all of these things. All of the contents, these guidelines that you send to General Khumalo and say, prepare a closing report. All of this points to a report that's trying to justify the decision. Do you agree? All of these items that I've just read out, and you can look at it more closely if you wish to.
May I ask to please repeat the question?
So the guidelines, all of these guidelines that you're talking about, you're saying these are guidelines, and I refer you to some examples. One would be in 4.1, the summary of key considerations that resulted in the decision to disband the task team. 4.3, the bullets under operational review. of the task team and its effectiveness. 4.4, any controversies and issues that arose during the task team's operation. 4.5, input from key stakeholders. 4.6, cost-benefit analysis of the task team's operations. 7, legal and compliance review, summary of any legal challenges, compliance or governance issues encountered. 4.7, data and security management. All of this, these that I've read out, are guidelines for a document that is intended to justify the decision.
No. No.
This is not about okay, explain your no before I go to the next question.
It is not an attempt to justify, because remember, this document was not crafted by the minister or myself. The bottom line here is that as much as I am the signatory of this document, it went past the eyes of the National Commissioner. We cannot really take out the National Commissioner from this letter because it was discussed with him. Even before it got sent to me, it went past his hands. He saw it. It came to me. I own the document because at the ultimate end, I had to sign it. But if this document came from General Rabi straight to me, I would take absolute full responsibility. But if it went via the Office of the National Commissioner, brought to my office by a general working with General Masemola to me, we are both in this thing together. So all I'm saying, Chair, is that I accept the responsibility for drafting this letter, but because of the fact that my commander, my boss, saw it and was satisfied with it. If he saw it and he didn't agree with it, General Sibola was wrong to bring it to my office.
Can I test my observation with you, General? Looking at this document, here is my observation. What it contains is guidelines that are usually followed when you close down a task team or a unit. And in the normal course, all of these things would have happened before the decision is taken, correct?
That is correct.
So that when you then prepare this report and you give them 2 days to submit it, they already have in their possession feedback from the NPA, feedback from the other stakeholders. They already have a breakdown of resources. They already have summary of legal challenges. But if you produce a document like this after the decision is taken, it doesn't make sense because you're saying to them within 2 days, go to NPA and get NPA's feedback, go to State Security Agency and get their feedback and response. And that's impossible to do it in 2 days.
Before you answer, just to the tail end of that is, the question was, I had asked about the NPA and the SSA, and I said specifically in the context of this task team, because they were part owners of the task team. They had a very serious role to play. They were members of the task team, the SSA and the NPA. So consultation would have been before the
Remember,
decision.
It was a multidisciplinary task team. It was not just the police. It was other disciplines, including NPA, including State Security Agency, including other role players. So the simple observation I make is that in the normal course, how you shut down a task team or a unit, you would have done these things in advance so that when you ask for a closeout report, it can be produced because you have all these things in the normal course.
In the normal course, it is what ought to have happened. Firstly, I want to to raise this issue. The fact that I signed it on the 17th, I said I'm raising my hands, that I made it was a mistake, and it was the date maybe, I don't know how it happened.
General, stop there. I even gave you a benefit of a doubt and say maybe you were expecting a response by the 20th.
Yeah.
Because remember, a report was.
Yes.
So assuming that 16th is a typo, you were really expecting all these things by the 20th. So you sign it on the 17th. When would anybody get input from NPA, input from SSA, input from all in a space of 3 days? That's impossible. So hence I say what this document shows, to me at least, not to my co-commissioners, is that you've taken a guideline that is normally used to shut down units and task teams. And you've tried to apply it to a situation where the minister surprised all of you by shutting down a task team without your knowledge. And you're now really trying to do a closeout report after the minister has made a decision.
I accept that, commissioners, and then I want to say that if we all are to accept that this was a guideline and that was sent to, let's say, General Kumalo, who's the project coordinator, under normal circumstances, what General Kumalo ought to have done was to look at it and say, it looked like there's a mammoth task here. There's a lot of work that still needs to be done that may take actually 30 days or 2 months. And this is my schedule in complying with the minister's instruction. Considering the fact that I think it was a preliminary report or the closer report, it was not the final, because the final report was going to be submitted at a much later close-up report. Even when I spoke to General Kumalo, he did raise these issues. He said to me, General, there are a lot of people that are involved here that must be consulted, and everyone else, and having consulted with everybody, and then the report will include all the information, including the dockets that are at court and everything. So it wasn't expected that this thing will close like tomorrow or just by the 20th it will be closed. It wasn't expected like that. But it kickstarted the discussions to say that this thing is now closing. So for General Kumalo, all he was supposed to do was to just go and sit down and craft a response that suits what he needs to achieve and how he's going to achieve it, and then present it before the minister or to me. And then I go to the National Commissioner again and say, NASCOM, I received this from General Kumalo, and this is how he sees this thing working. And then if we were to then thereafter say to him, no, we say it close by tomorrow, then we would have overstepped the mark. But if it was given to him, and then he didn't see it fit that he should respond. Instead, they did comply and wrote a report. Although I was not favored with the copy, it just went to the minister. So the same thing they did.
No, General, can I pause you there for a moment? Because it's a long answer. I was trying to allow you to finish, but it's taking too long because you're really not answering the question. And from my side, it's not, you're talking about what General Kumalo should have done. My question on this letter comes from an interest of what you should do and what is reasonable conduct by you. Why did you think sending this letter with all of these requirements or guidelines, as you put it, why do you think it was reasonable to request that? It's not an answer to say, well, General Kumalo should have come to me and told me this is not reasonable, it can't be done. I'm asking, why did you issue it in the first place? Why did you think it was reasonable?
You see, Chair, when you work in the OD, organizational development, or you've done work study, and then you learn how to write a report writing. And they give you to say, when you write a report, firstly, you start with the background, then the introduction, the background, factors that lead to the investigation. Then you come to a point that you need to raise, like when you do a thesis or whatever that you write, there's a format. Now, as General Ravi, you say, all right, I'm writing this document. I'm expected to guide the organization in coming up with a closing up report. I suggest that here are the guidelines. Work within these guidelines. Now, these guidelines that I'm sending to where they belong. Now, the person who must then respond is the one who must now begin the action steps. And how you begin the action steps is that you will say, you can even write back and say, all right, I've received the guidelines, and then this is my program on how to implement these guidelines that we've sent. Then you bring all those guidelines. And as you bring all those guidelines, I will take the same guidelines and they will go back to the minister and say, Minister, this thing is not as easy as you think. There is more work that needs to be done, and the following will be done. So that is why I take it that we all had a responsibility to bring our side. In my case, it was sent to me to sign, I sent. But from the side of General Khumalo, supposed to acknowledge, look at it and say, right, I've gone through this letter, this one is possible, this one is possible, this one is possible, this one will need so much time to do, to achieve, this cannot be done, and this is how I also suggest it must be done. Let's say even the winding down. Then you will write the same letter and say, I suggest that it must be done in phases. Now, you are openly responding to this letter because it's an official letter that comes from the Office of the National Commissioner to me to send to General Khumalo. So I'm still believing that it could have been handled that way.
Except General, at paragraph 3.2, you give an instruction that has immediate effect. You say, effective immediately, all investigative personnel must report, are directly accountable to the Divisional Commissioner for Detective and Forensic Services until they are reassigned to alternative units. So even if the rest of it you say it's a guideline, and I can see why, in parts, why you would say that, but that's not all there is in this letter. You give a direction that is effective immediately, that must be implemented. You're changing the reporting structure effective immediately. That to me doesn't seem like a matter that's open for debate. It's the same as the minister's letter, which says immediately disbands. It doesn't allow for a back and forth with the minister. The same as that your accountability, paragraph 3.2.
If the chair remembers very well, or commissioners remembers very well, there was at some point a newspaper article that says the minister sent them packing, where, for an example, there was a meeting held, and then in that meeting, that what was expected in terms of giving feedback on the progress in terms of the complying with the instruction was discussed, and only to find that not much was done or nothing happened. And the minister expressed his dissatisfaction around that issue. And then when he expressed his dissatisfaction around that issue, now, the small boy there is me. It is the minister, it's the national commissioner. Both of them, CI and DIVCOM, reports to me. I am the one who accounts when we are sitting in that space. When we are sitting in that space, where is the minister, the national commissioner, the two DIVCOMs, and myself? I am the one now accountable who must respond. Now, in my case, when I realized that now it looked like I'm now the one failing, because the national commissioner is quiet in the meeting. It's not objecting to anything. It's not disagreeing with anything. Now, I'm sitting here being told that, but you guys don't listen. This is what was needed, and I'm not being taken serious. Now, it looked like I am the one not taking the minister serious or the national commissioner serious, because even the national commissioner was not really objecting to anything. So, where I begin to also strengthen my hand to say, let this happen, let this happen, let this happen, is to try now to be hands-on and say, let's move, let's not
But
delay.
no, General. We know that this letter was sent to General Kumalo before that meeting with the minister that you're describing. We know that. It's the first thing that comes out of your desk. Yes, assisted by General Rabi. But your first act, and you say in your statement that from I think General or Lieutenant Letoko, you received this 31 December letter, and with an instruction to prepare a closeout report. You say all of that. And then this is what you prepared with the assistance of General Rabi. And what I'm pointing out to you is that which you prepared, your first act on this in 3.2 was to order with immediate effect a different accounting line. You say PKTT with immediate effect is now accountable to Divisional Commissioner for Forensic Services until they are reassigned to alternative units.
Just going through the letter.
Okay.
May I respond?
Yes.
Yes. In an attempt to make sure that we don't lose track or anything falling in between the cracks, you end up having to tie this thing to somebody to say that now that we are in the process of disbandment, and we are saying, if we are saying effective immediately in terms of the disbandment, now we are talking about the issues of the case docket now having to report to go to murder and robbery unit. So that is why in my case, I came up with that, this effective immediately was just to comply with the instruction of the National Commissioner. And then was to say effective immediately, and then the person who will now be in charge of the workload, it will be the DIFCOM detective services. And those that of intelligence will continue doing their part, reporting to where they belong.
Thank you. Ms. Hassan?
Thank you, Commissioner. I just want to, you haven't answered the question why you thought it was reasonable. You gave a very long response, but you didn't say why you thought this was a reasonable request to issue this letter with all of these guidelines. And it's not just that it's lengthy, and it's not just that it will take time, but it's that what's being requested is to provide the reasons for a decision from someone who did not make the decision. So I'd like your response on that, because I'm saying to you that's not a reasonable request.
I thought, commissioners, how I responded was that this was a guideline. This was a guideline. And it being a guideline, it needed to be treated as a guideline. Where Commissioner Kumalo, General Kumalo, had a different approach or response to it, or opinion, different opinion, he would have also responded as such, in such a way that he also brings his side of the story.
So he could have come back to you to say, this is just not possible to be done. And you, when you sent it, you expected that would be the kind of, that was your expectation.
He has done it before.
It doesn't make sense, because it doesn't tally up with what Commissioner Baloy was putting to you about you requesting immediate action on this. Nor does it tally up with the requirement in the minister's letter that a closing report must be provided by 20 January, which was 3 days after you sent this letter. You can comment on that if you wish.
Chair, my mind was still locked into a previous discussion when she was talking. And then when she was talking, say it doesn't make sense and this, and then I'm thinking on certain things. Now she says your comment on that.
Please repeat the question.
I apologize.
No problem, General, no problem.
What I was saying to you, General, is that your last response to me, which is that they're just guidelines, you didn't really expect that it would be done in 3 days. In other words, that was your response to my question, surely this is not reasonable. You said, well, you know, you didn't expect. He could have come back and said it's not going to get done. And I'm saying that doesn't make sense in the light of the contents of this letter, which require immediate action, or in the context of the letter from the minister, which required a closing report on the 20th of January, 3 days after you sent this letter. So that's what I'm saying to you. That's the comment I'm making. That's the observation I'm making about your response to me about reasonableness. And I'm saying to you, do you wish to comment on that?
Yes, I wish to comment. In our world as police officials, it would make sense and it would be easy to comply with. In your world, maybe from where you are coming from, it's something that may need to take 6 months. But in our world, if I give an instruction, it can be done in 3 days. It can be done in a week. It can be done in 2 weeks. So, as far as I'm concerned, there has been instances where they say, this must happen by tomorrow, 8 o'clock. And it happens. And the rest will follow. This is how it works in the police, maybe even in the defense. But it does not necessarily create a situation where we can say it doesn't make sense.
Okay, so you're saying it's reasonable within the police service. This is how SAPS works. It's reasonable within the SAPS to send a request to a person for reasons for a decision that that person never took. Because that's what this is. It's saying, give us the reasons. It's a whole report that justifies everything up until 4.8 of this letter, the bulk of this letter, 4 pages, is a report.
To consult with stakeholders, and we're talking SSA and NPA, it takes one telephone call or one email that says there needs to be this meeting, the way we have to discuss the minister's letter. Are we able to meet on such and such a date? Where you're consulting with the stakeholders. And then they all will compare their diaries and then agree that, okay, in a week's time, there's going to be that meeting, those stakeholders, because you don't need to go meet each and every prosecutor on the ground. What happens is that from General Masemola, the National Commissioner, as it was his responsibility there, he was just going to meet, let's say, the National Director of Public Prosecutions, or send me to go meet the DPP, or send the provincial commissioner to say, go meet your counterpart, the DPP there, and discuss this matter of the national commissioner. Now that can be done to say, what are the dynamics, what are the challenges, so that whatever that is being raised, then it gets put in writing, then there's a response back or feedback to the national commissioner, to the minister. So all I'm saying is that it is doable, it is possible. It is not a question of it could not be done. It's just a question of really there's not really that much of a crisis. Disbanding this task team is a small task team, by the way. It could just easily be done easily. And confirming with the stakeholders, to get a meeting of the stakeholders is easy. There are instances like where, for instance, you have to get for forensic establishment of forensic, where to get public works, get the Department of Justice, get that one into a meeting to go and discuss an urgent matter. It happens. So all I'm saying, I'm not downplaying or undermining the process, but what I'm just saying is that it is doable.
General, can you just look at 4.9? I mean, this letter is a very confusing letter for purposes of what was sought to be achieved. In 4.9, the heading you say closure plan, detailed implementation plan for the orderly disbandment of the task team, steps for transferring or archiving, reallocating resources and managing personnel transition. What in fact were you saying in that 4.9 supposed to happen? Practically, what would have happened?
A detailed implementation plan for the orderly disbandment of the task team, steps for transferring or archiving of data, reallocating resources and managing personnel transitions. And this is what I think I see also in that action plan that was crafted by both General Khumalo, that was submitted to the minister and approved by the minister partially, where they said, on this date, we are going to do this. On this date, we are going to consult with stakeholders. On this date, we are going to hand over the dockets. On this date, we are going to write the final report.
So that's what you were contemplating in 4.9?
That is correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to move off this letter, Commissioners, unless there are any questions from...
Perhaps let's start a new topic tomorrow. Let's adjourn and resume at 9:30.
Thank you, Chair.